Hello Scouts, it's Mr. Kugler and we're back around the fire pit today and we're going to be making a single serve breakfast using one of these old school mess kits. This is an aluminum mess kit. They also make them in stainless steel. And today we're going to be doing a takeoff on that Hungry Man, Mountain Man breakfast, but for one person. And instead of using ground sausage, I went to the grocery store and I picked up a single patty. This happens to be about 1/3 of a pound. It's 80-20, meaning 20% fat, 80% meat. And we're going to brown that up in some butter, a little bit of butter. The fat should be enough. We'll keep an eye on it. Then we're going to saute in that or cook in that some onions that I chopped ahead of time, finely chopped. We'll then add some shredded breakfast potatoes, and we want these to cook down in the fats and everything that'll be in our coming from our potato and left over from the butter. And then what we'll do is we're going to add a little bit of milk, 2 eggs, and then I have some Monterey Jack cheese that I had at home left over that I chopped up into smaller pieces, and we'll add that and let it cook. And we're going to cook it all in our aluminum mess kit, which opens up. You can see the lid here, which comes off. Has a separation where you could separate and have 2 different items there. And the handle, which snaps in place, also turns this into a nice little frying pan. So we're going to cook over a bed of coals, not too hot because with the aluminum, it doesn't dissipate the heat as well as, say, a cast iron skillet. And we're not going to be, we're not going to have a big volume of meat or food that's in there, so we don't need a lot of heat. But we'll get going cooking our Mountain Man breakfast, single serve in an old school mess kit. So just to aid in cleaning up, I'm going to spray down the inside of our skillet here with a little bit of this non-stick oil spray. Like I said earlier, I have butter ready to go, but we'll start cooking the hamburger on its own, just in the bottom of the skillet with that spray oil and see if it's enough. I don't want to have too much fat in here. So with our patty in our skillet, we'll put it on a bed of coals that I just pulled off to the side here. And what I want to do is break this down so it cooks more evenly. It's good also to have a pair of these gloves ready because as you start working this in towards the heat, your hands are going to get warm. It's a good way to protect you and keep you from being burned. As that meat cooks, it'll start to render out some of that fat from the 80-20 mix, and that'll help keep it from sticking to the bottom of our aluminum pan. So a lot of times when you make Hungry Man breakfast traditionally, or Mountain Man breakfast, pork sausage is used as the meat. But I started using once in a while hamburger meat. Sometimes I've had scouts that can't have pork, and when you think about it, hamburger meat is ground up steak, and steak and eggs isn't a bad thing either. One of the other aspects of using a hamburger patty like I did today is it helps create that portion that's equivalent to what you would have in a meal. And you could, shopping, easily go to the grocery store, to the meat counter, and ask for just one of the hamburger patties. You wouldn't have to buy the whole pound of meat or 1.5 pounds of meat in a bigger container. It's also portioned out so that you can, if you were, as I did today, I bought a packet of 4, I was able to just take one with me to our campsite to cook. So my hamburger meat is about a little bit past half cooked. It's starting to brown up nicely. It's rendering off that fat. And I'm going to go now and add my finely chopped onion. I have about 1.5 tablespoons of finely chopped onion that I'll add. Now mix that onion in with the hamburger. Now, what would a great Mountain Man breakfast be without a little shredded potatoes? I want my potatoes to cook down a little bit. These are frozen potatoes, so I'm going to take and add some to that browned meat and those onions that are starting to caramelize up there, and let the potatoes cook in that fat and help cook through the potatoes so we don't have raw potatoes in our Hungry Man breakfast. So I estimate I have a little more than a quarter of a cup there. Now you certainly could pre-package this into a Ziploc bag ahead of time at home. And even if you're cooking, these are still frozen because it's cold out here today, but I could have taken them out earlier and allowed them to thaw. So we'll put this back on the heat and allow those potatoes to fry up nicely in that beef fat that's in here with our onions and our ground beef. One of the things that could help speed up the cooking process is, and also to keep the ash out of my food on this windy day, is to be able to use the other half of the mess kit and put it on top of the kit. This would be a great time to add a little bit of butter to this mixture. Every so often you may have to add a little extra coals underneath your pan if they start losing their heat. So while my other ingredients are cooking on the fire, I'm going to take and combine my cheese chunks. Now I have little pieces that are, I would say, about 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch by almost 1/4 thick. And I want to take and crack and put my 2 eggs inside this Ziploc bag. Now I'm going to take and add a little bit of cracked pepper and a little bit of salt. You could season it as you like. And then to our mixture, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of milk. Okay, maybe 1.5 tablespoons. I'm going to take and seal, trying to get most of the air out. Now I'm just going to combine my ingredients, break down those yolks, make like a scrambled egg mixture. So now our egg mixture, complete with seasonings, a little bit of milk, and the cheese is ready to be added to our Hungry Man breakfast single serve. So our potatoes and meat are nicely browned and ready for our egg mixture. With all my ingredients in there, I'll just give it one last stir. Now we'll cook up our eggs. This time I'm going to securely mount the lid right on top. So I'm going to put this back on the heat, but I'm going to want to put a little bit of heat on the top. And because the lid sits inside of a rim on top of the bottom, I don't want to just throw ash on top of here because it's going to fall into my meal. So I'm going to take some aluminum foil. I'm just going to wrap it so that any ash that is on top of the mess kit will not find its way into our breakfast. Put this back on the heat. Then I'll go and shovel very little bit of coals on top of our mess kit. Check for my heat, and we'll let this bake up a little bit. If I need to, got some tongs here, and I can take off and disperse the coals on top of my mess kits. So we'll give that a couple minutes with the heat on the top and the bottom, and then we'll open it up and see how it's doing. We want to be careful that that bottom heat doesn't get and burn our egg mixture. These gloves that I use for Dutch oven cooking, which are an inexpensive pair of welding gloves, are a great help when doing cooking like this. So let's take a look and see how our eggs are doing. And our egg mixture is starting to set up, but it does need some more time. So we'll put our aluminum foil back on and put it back on the fire. And it looks like I could use a little extra top heat. Your hands are a great thermometer to get a sense for the level of heat that you have on top. Unlike charcoal briquettes that you can count out, using coals from a fire takes a little bit of practice, and different woods burn hotter than other woods. So using your hand carefully, notice I don't go right down on it. I gradually move in on it to be able to see what my level of temperature is coming off of my fire. Not unlike Dutch oven cooking, especially with an aluminum cook kit here, it's good to move it around a little bit in the event that I have some hot spots on the bottom. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. I think we have a winner. That butter is bubbling up through the top. Those eggs are fully cooked. The cheese is melted in. So now we have a container, once it cools down a little bit, that we can eat right out of and enjoy our meal. So here we have a mess kit Mountain Man breakfast, Hungry Man breakfast that we made, starting off with a 1/3 pound ground meat hamburger patty that we browned up. We added some finely chopped onions. To that, we added some breakfast shredded potatoes. Once those browned up and the potatoes softened, we added a mixture of egg, milk, and chopped up cheese and let that all cook together in our mess kit with both bottom heat and top heat. Remember to put that aluminum foil over the top to keep the ash out of your food. And we have a meal that we can eat right out of the container that we cooked it in, minimizing on our dishwashing. Get out there with your patrol members, your troop members. Try different cooking methods, different recipes, but most of all, get outside in the great outdoors and enjoy yourself.